I built a video marketing system for my law practice, mostly out of necessity, with limited time and limited budget. And I've tried to explain that thought process and the history of that in the prior episodes. So if you haven't seen those episodes, I'd encourage you to go back and check those out. What I want to talk about today is what I think might be the most important goal to keep in mind if you're a professional, business owner, or anyone trying to use video to organically market your business, and that's delegation. I believe the most critical part to being successful and sustainable with organic video marketing is delegation. Now, what is almost as important, however, and in some situations even more important, is to know what parts to delegate and when to do that delegating. If you're listening to this episode, I'm going to venture a guess that your time is your most valuable asset, probably by a long margin, even if you don't think it is. That means for organic video marketing to work and, more importantly, be worth doing and continue doing, you must keep that at the forefront of your mind at all times, especially if you haven't really thought about it before. Now, this is a little bit of do as I say, not as I do, because for a long time, I did not necessarily follow this rule. When I started out, I was doing all the recording, the editing, which wasn't much because I didn't know how, and the posting and publishing and all that stuff. In large part, I didn't know how to train someone on it because I was still figuring it out myself. Now, as an attorney, I was also very concerned that any content I produce and publish, I needed to see and approve, since it was going to be my license on the line. The nice thing about video is because you're the one recording it, you know exactly what gets said. This is still an important concern for me, but I think I've managed to build in systems and SOPs, or standard operating procedures, to really reduce the risks of something untoward happening. And if something happens, it's usually going to be fixable. Now, my story is I actually began delegating somewhat backwards. So in addition to my marketing content for my business, I had actually started a private podcast that was completely personal. There's no business benefit to that podcast. And in fact, I do that under a fictitious name. Now, one of the blessings of that was because it wasn't my name, my work name, attached to that content, I felt a little more comfortable delegating parts of that process to someone else. And so that's when I hired my first virtual assistant, who still works for me. With that personal podcast, which is also on YouTube, we began to work out and refine systems for the video content generation, the editing, the publishing, to where it became more and more automated and delegated over time. This was especially important where my virtual assistant is on the other side of the globe in the Philippines. Now, once we had kind of worked those out, eventually I began applying those same systems to my business marketing videos. And now my virtual assistant oversees both of those. Now, the reason I originally hired a VA and paid her to do something that was completely non-remunerative was because I had read Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. It's still one of my favorite books. No book has had, I would say, a bigger impact on my professional life than that book. Now, that concept now infuses pretty much all parts of my legal practice and especially my marketing efforts. So this is how my workflow currently works. And again, this is always sort of changing and evolving and improving, especially as programs and software becomes better and better. So I come up with the script usually, or maybe my VA or another assistant will kind of rough it out. But basically, I finalize the script and then I record the video. I record my videos into Riverside, which is great because it's a cloud-based program, so any of my team members can access that video. Once I'm done recording, my VA pretty much does everything. The editing, the exporting, publishing it to YouTube and the various channels. Thumbnails and titles are done with a combination of AI software and very clear SOPs that we have. She handles the metadata. We have SOPs for all of this, so it's very predictable and consistent. This has really allowed me to essentially reduce my involvement in the organic video creation process to probably 20 to maybe 25% of the entire process. If you've been putting off video because you're picturing yourself doing it all forever, I want to reassure you that there is hope and there is a way out of it. Now, the recording is probably going to have to be yours, especially in the day of personal brand being so important. But almost everything else around it doesn't have to be done by you, and I would say should not be done by you. The sooner you can move towards that, the quicker your system will improve and become scalable and sustainable. Now, if you're interested in learning more about my systems to see if they might work for you, feel free to join my school community. I'll have a link in the description. I really explain everything in there, and if you have questions about it, that's the best place to get to ask me those questions. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.